You ever get that gut feeling? Like some petty nonsense is about to blow up in someone's face in the most dramatic way possible? That was exactly me standing in front of what used to be my mailbox, again. Wood shattered like matchsticks, metal curled, and my mail sprinkled across the ditch like some discount confetti. Before we dive in, comment which country you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. I lived on the edge of a quiet subdivision, but quiet stopped being the right word the moment our HOA brought in their new self-appointed enforcer, Milton Craig. Now, Milton wasn't any kind of officer, but he loved pretending he was. Reflective vest. Fake radio. Clipboard full of mock citations. The man walked around like a sheriff of a town nobody asked him to guard. At first, I assumed the destroyed mailbox was some delivery mishap, so I replaced it with a regular post and box. 2 weeks later, boom, the same carnage all over again. Splintered post. Mangled metal. My patience? Gone. Neighbors whispered that Milton didn't like me because I dared to question his made-up HOA authority. He'd already complained about my grass length, my parked truck, even the color of my recycling bin. But smashing mailboxes? That felt too childish, even for him. By the third attack I'd had enough. Mailboxes are federally protected under Title 18, Section 1705. Destroying one is a crime. So I went to the HOA meeting. And of course, who was there smirking like a cartoon villain? Milton. He even joked that if I built better, it wouldn't fall apart so easily. That was my clue. His old pickup had a dented bumper with scratches suspiciously matching my mailbox paint. Coincidence? My gut said no. So I set up a wildlife camera, angled perfectly at the mailbox. Nothing fancy. Just smart positioning. And guess what? 1 week later at 6:14 a.m. there he was. Milton's battered truck rolled by, swerved just enough and crack. My mailbox exploded into splinters. He didn't even speed up, just kept rolling like he didn't commit a federal crime on a Tuesday morning. I almost laughed when I watched the footage. Mr. HOA deputy was literally destroying federal property in broad daylight. At the next meeting, I calmly presented the evidence. Here's Milton destroying my mailbox, I said, holding up my phone. Karen, the HOA president who defended Milton like he was her personal security guard, tried to argue. Maybe the footage isn't clear, she said. I paused the video. Zoomed in. Milton's vanity plate, crystal clear. Silence. But I realized something then. The HOA wasn't going to hold him accountable. Not when Karen practically wrote fan fiction about his imaginary authority. If I wanted justice, I had to outsmart him. So I researched reinforced mailboxes. County code said the post had to be under 4 inches and breakaway friendly. But I found wiggle room, legal wiggle room. So I got creative. Steel core post. Decorative brick around it. Hollow enough to meet code but strong enough to laugh in the face of a pickup truck. On top, a heavy-duty locking mailbox that manufacturers claimed was practically indestructible. Neighbors stared while I worked. Upgrading? One asked. I smiled. Just making sure it holds, this time. When I finished, it looked totally normal, classy even. But underneath? A fortress disguised as home decor. I didn't have to wait long. One quiet morning, coffee in hand, I heard a loud thud, then metal scraping, then a man screaming in pain. I stepped outside. Milton's truck was crumpled against my mailbox like a soda can. Airbags blown. Hood folded. Steam rising. And Milton? Clutching his arm, cursing like the universe betrayed him. What did you do to your mailbox? He yelled. I sipped my coffee. Built it to code. Can't help it if you can't drive. Karen came storming down the street in her robe, hair wild. This is a trap, she screamed. We'll report you for unsafe conditions. I just turned on my camera. Police arrived. I handed them the paperwork. Fully legal. Fully compliant. Fully hilarious. Karen tried to argue until the second officer said, Ma'am, the only crime here is destruction of mailboxes, a federal offense. Milton went pale. And for the first time, I watched karma clock into work early. You ever notice how some people can cause chaos and then act shocked when it finally catches up to them? That was the exact vibe on Milton's face the morning he turned my mailbox into modern art and ended up calling the cops on himself without even realizing it. Police had already confirmed what I knew all along. My upgraded mailbox was 100% legal. Breakaway post, under the diameter limit, approved materials. I had every document neatly stapled together. Meanwhile, Milton's truck was folded up like a taco. As the officers took pictures, Milton paced back and forth clutching his arm, muttering excuses that made less and less sense. The sun was in my eyes, your mailbox jumped out, Road uneven? He sounded like he was auditioning for a comedy show. Karen wasn't giving up either. She marched around yelling about unsafe structures and community hazards. But all the neighbors were standing at the end of their driveways filming the spectacle like it was a live reality show. One officer walked over to me. "Sir, you've handled this perfectly. We'll file the report. You'll also want to give this footage to the postal inspector. This falls under federal jurisdiction." I nodded. "Already saved 3 copies." Milton froze. "Federal?" His voice cracked like a teenager's. The officer nodded. "Destroying or damaging a mailbox is a federal offense. And this wasn't the first time, correct?" I showed him the older photos, splintered pieces from the previous incidents. He whistled under his breath. "Looks like a pattern." For the first time, Milton's fake tough guy posture collapsed completely. He sank onto the curb like his knees quit working. Karen rushed to defend him. "He didn't mean it. He volunteers for the HOA. He helps keep the neighborhood safe." The officer raised an eyebrow. "By ramming mailboxes?" She sputtered. "It was an accident." I held up my wildlife footage. 3 accidents? The crowd actually laughed. The officer sighed. "Ma'am, intent doesn't erase crime." When the tow truck arrived to haul Milton's wounded pickup away, the driver shook his head. "Buddy, what did you hit? A bunker?" Milton glared at me like I personally challenged him to a duel. "Why would you build something like that?" he snapped. I shrugged. "Because you kept destroying my federal property." Karen stomped her foot. "This is vandalism in reverse. He set this up." The officer cut her off. "Ma'am, unless you'd like to be charged with obstruction, please stop." That shut her up instantly. While Milton was being checked by EMTs, the officer pulled me aside and lowered his voice. "Look, if the HOA gives you trouble, file a complaint and call the county. Everything you've done is to code. They can't touch you." I thanked him. But I also knew Karen wasn't the type to let things go. She hated losing, especially in front of an audience. And Milton? His ego was bruised harder than his arm. By that evening, the neighborhood group chat was on fire. Screenshots, memes, slow-motion clips of Milton's truck hitting the mailbox. It spread faster than rain gossip. Someone even edited dramatic music over the crash video. But things went from entertaining to ridiculous when Karen sent out a special HOA announcement claiming, "Mailbox reinforcements must be reviewed for safety." Everyone saw the move for what it was, petty revenge dressed up as policy. Replies poured in. "What? It survived your enforcer. Maybe review Milton's driving instead. The mailbox has a better safety record than he does." By the next morning, Karen was in full meltdown mode. She emailed me demanding I voluntarily remove the hazardous mailbox until the HOA board could investigate. I replied with one sentence. "Please provide the exact HOA rule I violated." She never did. Because she couldn't. But the funniest part? Neighbors started asking for the same mailbox model. Suddenly, everyone wanted a Milton-proof mailbox. And that's when Karen snapped completely, and things escalated from HOA drama to full-blown war. You ever notice how people who abuse power panic the hardest when they finally lose it? That was Karen and Milton, the HOA Bonnie and Clyde of bad decisions, spiraling faster than their excuses by the day. After Milton's crash, the neighborhood was buzzing. Someone even made a gif of him flying forward when the airbag popped. I tried not to laugh, but honestly it was impossible. Even the mailman dropped by to congratulate me. "Strongest mailbox on my route," he said, patting it like a loyal dog. But Karen? She was determined to reclaim her imaginary throne. When her voluntary removal email failed, she called for an emergency HOA board meeting. The kind where she hoped nobody would show so she could pass whatever nonsense she wanted. Except this time, the neighborhood did show up. In fact, more people attended that night than any HOA meeting in the last 5 years. Karen didn't expect that. She stood at the front, arms crossed, chin raised like she was running for president of Earth. Milton sat beside her with his arm wrapped and his pride bruised. Karen slammed her notebook on the table. "This neighborhood is becoming unsafe," she announced dramatically. "Residents are installing dangerous, reinforced mailboxes. This must stop." The room erupted in laughter. One neighbor raised his hand. "You mean the mailbox your little sidekick tried to ram?" Another chimed in. "Maybe we need reinforced mailboxes to protect ourselves from Milton." Milton shifted uncomfortably, looking ready to sink into the floor. Karen snapped. "He was injured. Someone could have died." I stood up slowly. "Funny, no one got hurt until someone broke the law." Karen glared daggers at me. Your mailbox is a hazard. I pulled out my binder like a magician revealing a rabbit. County Code 14.08. Approved materials. Breakaway compliant. Verified by Public Works. Confirmed by law enforcement. I placed the papers on the table. And for the record, the only person who created danger was the man driving his truck into federal property. Gasp. A few people clapped. Someone whispered, "Owned?" Karen flipped to a new page, clearly desperate. We have the authority to request removal. I raised a brow. Show the rule. She sputtered. Flipped more pages. Checked another binder. Nothing. Finally, a board member, her own ally, sighed. Karen, there is no such rule. Her face froze like someone hit pause. Another board member cleared his throat. Actually, if anything, Milton damaged property multiple times. He violated federal law, state law, and HOA guidelines. We should be discussing sanctions against him, not the mailbox. Milton's eyes widened. Wait, sanctions. Karen tried to defend him, but the room wasn't having it. People were done with their power trip. One neighbor stood up. Milton intimidates residents. He hands out fake citations. He damaged property. Enough is enough. Another. He even yelled at my kid for riding a scooter on the sidewalk. Someone else. He took pictures of my yard at midnight. By the time everyone finished, Milton looked like he wanted to evaporate. Then the board member announced the final blow. The board votes to remove Milton from any volunteer enforcement role, effective immediately. The room cheered. Karen slammed her notebook shut. This is outrageous. You're all making a mistake. But nobody backed her. Not one person. Milton muttered, my truck's totaled, my arm's bruised, and now this. He walked out, defeated. Karen tried to storm out after him, but her own board members stopped her. Karen, we need to talk about your conduct. That was the last straw. She grabbed her stuff and left, loudly, announcing she was resigning from this circus. The door swung shut behind her. And just like that, peace returned. Afterward, neighbors gathered in my driveway like it was a celebration. Some brought snacks. Someone even brought folding chairs. Your mailbox saved the neighborhood, one said. Another laughed, build me one just like it. I sipped my coffee, looking at my perfectly intact mailbox standing tall against the backdrop of a quiet, peaceful street. Funny thing about bullies, they always think they run the place, until someone stands firm and lets karma punch back. And on that street on that day, karma didn't just knock. It showed up wearing a badge and took Milton away.